Hello, this is future Tom. I had to cut at the point I was talking at because I accidentally doxed myself. So it's been a couple days. I recorded that first part on the 26th of February, and it is now the 2nd of March. So it's a couple days. I just went and watched the whole thing again just so I can refresh my memory. So yeah, I'm just gonna start from where I left off, where I was talking about kind of going from having a lot of confidence to basically just having no confidence. So effectively, losing all of that confidence in like high school and doing like your first job and then building a little bit of it, but then realizing that like so the relationship that I had with that one woman that was working there at my first job, I know she was obviously doing the best she could with kind of effectively like trying to deal with this kind of bundle of like wanting love but being like emotionally just kind of fucked at the moment. She kind of almost confirmed, she confirmed in my head that I didn't deserve love because I was just broken. And it was like there was just this level of brokenness, this level of like really deep depression, and a level of not seeing my worth at all. Because, you know, when you get lots of consistent feedback that you're trash, that you don't deserve anything, that you should just go and die, that like this, there was a level there of like hatred. And I just started seeing it everywhere. Even when sometimes people just weren't actually saying or feeling those things, I would attribute it to, well, of course they wouldn't, whatever, because I'm trash and blah, blah, blah. So it's like a reinforcing cycle that was kind of happening. And yeah, I looked for an escape throughout these years, and the only thing I could find was video games. When you're playing a video game, like, especially, so I was playing World of Warcraft. That was like my first big MMO. And you could be whatever you wanted. People didn't know you, like in the traditional sense. And that was kind of the only place where I could just let loose and not feel judged for existing, because they just didn't know me, right? So I will do a whole kind of section on video games at some point. That'll probably be a separate video. But like I could probably talk for an hour and a half about how like shaping video games were in my life. But needless to say, the video games were a source of addiction. And because it was addicting to not be judged. That's really what it was. I enjoyed hanging out with people and making friends and all of this stuff. They didn't know me, and so they couldn't judge me, even if they wanted to, in the same way that I felt the judgment all around me in real life. The only two people that I think genuinely never judged me in the same way was my grandfather and my mom. Don't really know how my sister felt about everything, so I can't really put her in one thing or the other. I think yeah, we've never actually really like had a heart-to-heart talking about just what kind of her thoughts and feelings were during that time. So I think maybe part of it is like she just kind of she has to do a lot of the shadow work that I've been doing for a while. I was kind of forced, where it's like you die or you do shadow work. That was kind of what was happening. And I don't think she had the same pressure, so I don't think she's done as much shadow work as I've done. I'm sure she's done some, but yeah. But anyway, so moving into my second job, I got a second job at a jewelry store, and it was kind of the first time that I got to feel I don't know if wanted's the right word. It keeps coming up in my head, but like there was kind of this like, yeah, you have a job, you're I was putting suits on, and like it made me feel good. Like I looked good, I felt good, even though like internally I didn't feel good, but it was like there was almost like a facade of like, well, outwardly you look good and outwardly your body's feeling good, so you should feel really good about yourself. And I was like, okay, maybe I can live, but I don't really know like what my future's gonna look like, but at least I have a job. And I'm still living with my grandfather. And at this point, he's starting to have some health issues. We didn't know at first what it was, but then we found out he had Parkinson's. He got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and it's like, oh fuck, like this is a horrible disease to deal with. And so he started needing some help. I'm working at my job, and then my WoW career took a turn of like, hey, maybe I could make real life money playing WoW. And so me and my a friend at the time, he's no longer a friend of mine, but like a friend at the time, he got a second account, and he's like, hey, we can totally make a bunch of gold and get these effectively really, really fucking dumb AI. It's not even really AI. It's like just a program that you just execute, and it kind of does things in a rotation. And, those were the primitive bots, basically. They were really dumb and very easy to ban. And also at the time, Blizzard was much more on like, yep, we're banning everything. But anyway, so we had this like harebrained scheme of like, okay, we're gonna like get 10 computers and like we're gonna make a bot empire out of this, and then we're gonna make a bunch of money, and then we're gonna sell the money to like the black market, and then we're gonna make a bunch of like real life money with the gold that we're selling. Which, by the way, like, people totally do that to this day. So like, it's just that the bots have evolved to become crazier. But anyway, we got so attached to like the account that was the alt account that was botting that we didn't even think that we were going to get banned, because I came up with, I'm like, okay, there's no way they're looking into instances and seeing what, because if they have all these tools to look like on the server to see what, like, oh, someone reports you for botting, well, okay, maybe you're botting. And so my idea was like, okay, what if we went into an instance where no one can see us? That means no one can report us. And because no one can report us, how would Blizzard ever know that we're doing this? And friend was like totally on board. So we put like 100+ hours into this account to get it to a point where it can do the thing we were doing. And it totally worked. It was like, we did the math, and there was a spreadsheet, and it's like one bot account was making like $4 an hour. Now again, the math was really fucking generous. Like, but yeah. So, and then inevitably we forget that we're not supposed to have a bot on 24/7. So it gets banned within like 4 days. And then we have a falling out about it because he was so pissed that like, he's like, I had spent like 50 hours and I spent like 50 hours and we got all this gear and you fucked it up, and it was a huge blowout. That's why we're not friends. Like, I have no way of contacting him or know like where he is. Obviously, at the time, it felt like a world-ending scenario, but it was just it was like such a stupid thing to like end a friendship over. But yeah, so like there's that going on in the background. There's the I'm mega depressed. At one point, I actually passed out in the shower, or like momentarily blacked out because I just wasn't eating enough food. And my grandfather's like, you can't do that. Like, you have to eat more food. Because I was like, I know that he wasn't, but at the time, it felt like he was judging me for my food choices. And so I only ate food at night to like hide from his like gaze. Which obviously was just stupid. I should have just made the food that I wanted to make. But at the time, it just felt like the only option I had. So I remember like eating food over the trash can. And it's like, I didn't care. I would make these like little... They're actually pretty good, but like, this is the struggle meal. I would get these little, oh god, what are they called? They're like the rice cakes. Yeah, the little circular rice cakes you get in a little like 4-pack or 6-pack or something. And I would put some pizza sauce on them, and then I'd put a little cheese on it, and then I'd stick it in the microwave for a minute. A little pizza. It was good. It wasn't amazing, but it was like tasty. And that's what mattered to me, is like I didn't care about nutrition or anything like that. And my grandfather would always make me steamed vegetables in the evening. So that was nice. But yeah, if I ate anything else, it was like I felt the judgment. And I know it was actually just self-judgment. But like I didn't see that. I just thought he was judging me because I felt a judgmental gaze. So then I end up like before I end up just like completely losing, I don't know if losing is the right word, but leaving the job, because I left the jewelry job. But before that, I was really into the idea of maybe becoming like an actual jeweler that makes jewelry. It was like a thing where it was kind of the last vestiges of my father, where it was like he was really into like gems and gemstones and all of this stuff, and we collected all sorts of gems and gemstones. And it was kind of like, well, if I could be a jeweler, I don't know, maybe I could, there'd be like some sort of closeness with my dad or whatever. Also, at the time I was like, oh, I can go from $7.50 or something an hour with like additional commission to a stable like 15 or 20 an hour, which was a lot in like 2009 or whatever. So funny that, you know, wages haven't gone up by much. But anyway, I'm not gonna grandstand on that. So yeah, I talked to the district manager. I was like, hey, I'd really like to see if I could become a jeweler. And I know there's a jeweler division within the company. Can you transfer me to the company? Or to that side of things? And he's like, well, I can set you up a meeting. It's going to be in a different state. And I'm like, okay, I'll drive there. So I drive down for this meeting. I'm so excited because I'm like, first of all, I have no idea how I'm going to like do any of this stuff. But if I have a job secured down there, I'll find something. I'll find some sort of housing. But yeah, basically I get down there. The guy seemed interested, but he's like, yeah, we're not giving you 15 an hour or whatever it was starting. We're giving you 9. And I'm like, I cannot live on 9 an hour by myself. Like that, I don't know how I'd do that. Like, I'm not paying rent at my grandfather's right now. So going from that to paying rent plus additionally being able to afford for everything else, it's like, how the fuck would I do that? So feeling like I got kind of fucked, I come back up and I'm like, bro, like I go and I'm like, tell the district manager, like, well, I'm not taking that job because I got fucked. And the district manager's like, well, you don't have the position in that store anymore, but I guess I can put you in a different store. So he put me in a different store, and I stayed at that store for a little bit, and then the old assistant manager was getting promoted to becoming a manager, and she was like, hey, you should come with me to my store. I can hire you in my store. And I said yes. We ended up there. There's a reason, by the way, that I'm telling this in somewhat detail, because I end up finding the second person that I fall head over heels for working there. She was a coworker, and she was just like, I don't know. She was awesome. She was really nice to me. And it was like, there was no way I was not going to fall for her. And just like the first person I like truly like fell for, she did not see me in the way I saw her. And we did things like a couple, but like it never went super far. And it was very much like, you are my best friend rather than a potential love interest. And it was like another one of those, obviously now I'm like, yeah, some people are going to like you, some people aren't going to like you. But back then it was like confirmation again that like I'm worthless. Like, of course she wouldn't like me. You know. And so it just kept lowering my sense of self-worth, where it's like 2 times I've like put my heart and soul out there, and the person just wasn't interested. And you know, it's kind of like, during that time, I obviously enjoyed her company. But it was just really hard to work with her while still kind of like, it's like, I really like you, but you don't like me, but we're best friends. And it's kind of like, you know, I'm seeing her like end up going on like, oh, I'm about to go for a date and I'm so excited. And it's just like, yeah, I just couldn't do it. So I ended up going back to the previous store that I was at, the second store, stayed there for like a month or 2, and then decided, fuck it, I'm gonna go back to school. Because like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with this. Like, I don't really like selling jewelry to people. It feels like I'm just conning them, because, you know, I've seen behind the curtain. Jewelry is such a scam. It's so overpriced, marked up. So it's like, I don't want to be a con artist. At least that's how I felt. So I'd go back to school and go to a community college first, find another person during community college that I fell for. She also wasn't interested. Again, confirming like my suspicions. And it's like, yeah, I'm just picking poorly. That's really what's going on. I'm picking poorly. Picking people who clearly are not interested. But I didn't see it that way back then. So, and especially because I already just felt so shitty, it was just like, it's like, maybe I should just give up, like, looking for someone. Because, you know, I've had a few relationships that were, like, friends with benefits. You know, I didn't really find sex all that appealing. Like, it was fine. It just kind of was a thing. I just didn't I didn't really understand what the point of like all of that was, because, you know, there's like this romanticized version of like, oh man, like there's all sorts of awesome, like your heart and mind and you're like melding together and it's so beautiful. And I'm like, I've never seen that. Like, it's just wasn't a thing that I was really interested in. So yeah, I just kind of didn't care. And it didn't help that obviously no one was interested, or at least the people that were interested, because there was someone who was interested in me, but I was very shallow at the time. Again, it's like, yeah, when you try to like pick someone based on their beauty, their outward appearance, and not pick someone based on like compatibility internally, like, yeah, it's gonna be a bad time, right? That seems like a no-brainer to me now, but like back then I didn't fucking understand. So but yeah, there was someone in one of my writing classes that was like, she actually had the courage to come up and like, hey, you want to go on a date? And she was a bit heavy, and I was just like, no thanks. That was it. Like, she was a nice person. We probably could have had a really nice relationship. But I was like so head over heels for this other person that I couldn't see that like there were people who actually did like me. I just needed to pick the right person. And I needed to stop being so kind of locked in on like physical beauty and kind of just the overall like physical reality. I needed to start looking internally. So there was also a counselor that they were like a therapist that I went to, and the therapist was a fucking asshole. Like, genuinely probably the worst therapist experience I've ever had. They were like blaming me for like wanting to like feel better about myself. And they're like, okay, this is total conspiracy theory like thing. It felt to me like this person somehow like had an agenda against me in some way, because maybe they like knew me or something. There was like something weird. There's some weird vibes going on where it was like I come in and they're like very up their own ass, and it was awful. So I don't know why I just did this, but now I have to fix it because it's fucked. Okay. But yeah, so, you know, looking for a therapist, I was like, well, they're not going to help me. And yeah, I tried to figure out what I was going to do with my life. So I tried all sorts of things and went to different classes, you know, just like finding yourself kind of energy. And then I ended up helping a buddy do his final exam for a programming class. I didn't know shit about programming, but I thought it would be fun, and I thought it would be super easy to just do it. And then in a weekend, I like taught myself like basic Java stuff, and then wrote his program for him, and then gave it to him. And it worked. It was not pretty, but it worked. That would be spaghetti code for anyone who's actually a programmer out there. It was mega spaghetti code. Like, No structure at all. But yeah, I was like, I really liked that. And then I'm like, wait a minute. If I became a programmer, I had this in the background, this idea of like making a game. And I was like, well, I love WoW, but there are some things I wish WoW had. So maybe I could make my own game. And of course, every aspiring programmer that wants to make games, they're like, I'm going to make the next cool MMO, not knowing that making an MMO is incredibly expensive. You need like so many resources and so much help. And then even then, if you don't have players that want to play it, it's fucking dead on the water. So yeah, pipe dream. But that was that. So just trying to think. Oh, right. So while I've been doing this, it took 4 years for me to get a 2-year degree because I could only take classes at night. The reason is because I was helping my grandfather for about 12 to 14 hours each day. Like the Parkinson's had progressed, and it wasn't like it was consistent things I needed to help him with. It was more like, for an example, like he would go to bed at around 12. That's when I would wake up because I'd go to bed at 4 p.m. So I'd wake up at 12. I'd play WoW. And then while I'm playing WoW, I would make sure to have like one headphone off so I could hear if he called for me. And then I would run over and like help him. And it was usually like he needed help like 2 to 3 times during the night to like go to the bathroom. So I'd help him, get up, go to the bathroom, take him back, get him back in the bed. And then afterwards, it was like he'd wake up at like 4 a.m. He'd do his like bed exercise routine for about 2 to 3 hours. And then afterwards, I would help him downstairs. Well, okay, I think sometimes he'd take a shower. Sometimes it would be more of like, what's it called? He'd go to the gym first. But in either scenario, like, I'm helping dry him off. I'm helping him get dressed. Like, it was like, it was the whole thing. And people at the gym just kind of knew me and him as like, I'm just helping him out. And yeah, I also like enjoyed kind of playing racquetball and stuff like that while he was doing his Stairmaster. He did like Stairmaster for like an hour at like some like incredibly high setting. It was just insane. His like physical fitness level was crazy considering everything he was going through. But yeah, so there was that, and then there was also like him teaching me how to work out like properly. Definitely like he did that when I was in high school, but it was more of like helping me maintain and like work on different types of routines and showing me different exercises, and yeah, it was a whole thing. But yeah, so we did that, and this made school really hard because number one, it's like I didn't want to like live in the real world. So I'm incredibly depressed. School is like hard just because like physically getting there, like my mom would have to like sub in for me so that I could get to school at like 3, and then like it was like 2 or 3 sometimes, but like I would get to school, I would do my class, Then I would come back, I would go to bed, then I'd wake up, do the stuff with my grandfather. And this was a routine for several years. I think let's see. I think it was at least 4 years of like doing this. And I had a counselor that was like helping me schedule classes and whatnot. And he talked to me and he's like, look, I'm just letting you know, like, this is for, I guess I want to be specific. Transferring to a 4-year, like, university. The university counselor was like, hey, just so you know, doing a CS degree, it's going to be impossible for you to do this with your current lifestyle. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, look, the homework, like, this is a full-time job. You're going to spend like 50 plus hours a week doing your homework, making sure to like go to classes on time. You can't miss even one class because this is a tough like degree that you're going into, and it requires a lot of work. So it kind of, I was at a crossroads of like, what do I do? Do I tell my grandfather I can't help him anymore? Or like yeah, what do I do? And so I had a really hard conversation with him where it was like, look, I love you, but I feel really behind in life. You know, I'm not getting younger. I'm in my later 20s, and I don't even have, like, I just got my 2-year degree. I had already waited a couple years before I even started my degree, and I see, like, friends and family getting into relationships and buying houses, and it was like, I was starting to really stress out about, like, well, what does my life look like? And, you know, there's the mega depression in the background. But, like, because of how stressful the, like, just always being on edge with, like, helping my grandfather, it just made it really hard for me to even, like, think about the depression. So that's just in the back burner. I didn't have time to be depressed, is really what it boiled down to. And I was just running myself ragged. I was physically just exhausted. And mentally I was exhausted too. And so I told him, I'm like, look, I wanna go to this 4-year university to get my bachelor's because I want to start living my life. And he was really sad. He's like, well, what if I just paid you like $50,000 a year to like take care of me? And it was like so hard to just like say, no, I can't, because it's not about the money. It's about the fact that I just felt like I needed to do something that kind of I chose. And I felt like up until this point, even though like I chose like where I worked, but the circumstances just kind of, I felt like I didn't have a choice in the matter. And, you know, I loved my grandfather, and I'm glad I was able to help him. I don't regret any of the time I spent with him. It definitely felt tough to do, though, especially because I was effectively his nurse for 12 hours a day. And I didn't have, like, you don't get days off when a family member is suffering a serious condition. I wasn't trained to do that, so I had to just learn. Luckily, I was good at learning, so it was like, okay, yeah, like, you gotta fucking buckle up and shut up and do your job, because otherwise he's gonna get injured. There are multiple times where I fucked up because I didn't prop his feet exactly perfect, and he slid and, like, kind of slid towards the floor from getting off of the bed. And it's like there would be a whole thing where he'd be, like, very upset, rightfully so, and then I'd be like, I'm so sorry, like, and he's like, you gotta properly do the thing, and it was a whole thing. And luckily he never got, like, seriously injured by any of that stuff that happened. But it's like I wasn't a professional. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. I'm just doing the best I can. Like, there was this one thing where he would always hit his back against the back of the toilet seat. Like, not the seat, but like the bowl on top. I don't know what it's called specifically, but so I got a pillow and I got some string and I literally just jerry-rigged it together to, like, make it so that even if he fell back, it would just hit the pillow instead of anything else. And we, like, took the seat apart. It was a whole thing. And it worked. Like, I don't know what the official medical thing would be, but, like, it worked. He didn't hurt himself anymore doing that. Just feels like, man, like, just talking about this, it feels like it's like a whole other life that, like, as I'm just remembering, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of fucking shit there. That's crazy. But, so I'm just, like, chugging along. I tell him this is kind of what I have to do, and I feel really bad. And he's like, okay, at the end of the day, he loves me, I love him, and, like, he knows that he already, I could tell, he already felt bad that he needed all the help that he did. It was like there was a guilt there. Sorry, nose itch. Ugh. Okay. Okay. Okay, sorry. There was, like, he felt guilty that, like, he couldn't do things for himself. And, he would joke about how it's like, well, I'm coming of age where it's like you start in diapers and you kind of end in diapers. And so he'd joke about that kind of stuff. And then it started getting really dark, where towards the end, well, I'll get to that in a second because I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Basically, I went to this 4-year university and I was like, okay, I'm doing it. He gave me blessings of, like, yep, go ahead and do it. You can just live here and I'll hire someone to help you. And I'm like, okay. So he has some guy. He's very nice. At the time, I didn't really connect dots, but it seemed a little bit shady on, like, I don't know where this guy came from, but I kind of suspected that he was getting kind of the short end of the stick salary-wise for what he was doing. And when I heard the short end of the stick salary that he was getting, I was really upset for a little bit. I was like, what the fuck? Like, my grandfather's not, like, you know, he's not going to help pay for school. He didn't really, like, he gave me, I mathed it out. He gave me a little bit of a, like, I don't know if salary is even the right word. He gave me money, and calculating it out, it was like 25 cents an hour effectively. But like, I was really upset when I realized that, like, I guess I didn't even grasp. Well, okay, sorry. There's like a couple things. First, I never did it for the money or anything like that. So like, I was struggling financially, but like, I had my school stuff, and it was like, it was juggling, like, okay, like, so I'm gonna live off of like my food that I get from my grandfather, plus like my mom would always come over once a month and give me a bunch of food, and I always felt incredibly embarrassed about it because it was things that I knew my grandfather would judge me on, which, again, he wasn't judging me. That was just my impression, right? But it was like, I was super embarrassed. I was like, Mom, stop doing this. And she's like, oh, I just want you to be full and have food and da 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 da, and this and that. And yeah. So, and I'll just say, at the time, me and my mom are still like in a really like good place relationship wise. The strain with me and my grandfather was like there in the background, but it was like we still understood each other, and I still cared about him. So there wasn't really anything, but I was upset about the, like, later looking back and being like, I've been struggling with money, and like, he could have like paid me a little bit more to help me not struggle with money. Like, you know, my bank account was always zero or in the negatives, and like, that was just kind of how I was living. And then, you know, again, going back to this new chapter of my life where I'm just focused on school. And I had a rude awakening because I'm focused on school, and surprise, surprise, the depression that's been basically compressed down because I'm dealing with all the other stuff and I have no time to think about the depression, just comes up and is like, rah! And I'm like, oh fuck, I am really depressed. And I'm like, I want to kill myself. And I'm like, fuck, I can't do school if this is how I'm feeling all the time. So I go to a counselor and I say, hey, I need counseling. I'm broken. I need counseling. And they're like, yep, no problem. And I got a really wonderful counselor. Like, she was so healing. I don't know. I really cared about her. And it was like, She really helped me out of like a really dark period of my life. Yeah. Like, I genuinely don't think I would be here if she didn't exist and helped me. So, but anyway, so my grandfather, like, has this guy coming around and is helping for like 6 months. The first, I guess the first year of my like latter 2 years of the degree, which turns into another like 4 years worth of degree instead. But like, it was mainly due to just being depressed and like not being able to handle the fact that even for people who are like mentally sound, this is a hard degree to get. So then he ends up going into a home, an old folks home or a retirement center or whatever. And that retirement center is really bad. And this is where he starts telling me, like, hey, like, I want to die. Please kill me. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, please don't ask me to kill you. He's like, you can just like smother me a little bit or something. Like, just, you know, just get it done. And I'm like, I can't do that. Please, like, don't. I know you're in a lot of pain. I cannot just do that. And he's like, well, can you look into it? Like, the euthanasia stuff? Like, I'm sure it's legal somewhere. And we look into it, and turns out it's like way harder to euthanasia, like, or I don't even know what the correct term is. I guess like assisted suicide. The assisted suicide like laws are so fucked. There's like, back then it was like you have to have a terminal condition, which he did check out for. You also have to be like incredibly like fucked when it comes to like mobility and stuff. He was there. You have to have a lot of pain. Okay, he was there. Also, the way they do it is they inject you with some sort of fucking poison that like the poison does it over the span of like a month, and they're just in agony through the whole month. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is how you like assisted suicide someone? Like, what the fuck? And to be fair, I'm getting all of this information from my mom. I never actually have the time to check to see if this is actually real. So I'm not sure. But in the end, we obviously are like, well, fuck that. I'm not doing that. Yeah, he's suffering, but like, is that any better? Anyway, so I'm working with all three of these things at the same time. The depression, the like trying to do the school thing, and trying to get even decent grades. And then also like trying to make friends, and I made some friends. None of them really stuck around. To be fair, like, the me then was just, I couldn't function. So like, I'm sure people saw that. And then there was also this like fleeting kind of like last attempt to try and like see if maybe I can have a relationship with someone. Someone in one of my elective classes. I liked her. She seemed like fun to hang out and talk to. I thought maybe she liked me or something, or at least there was something there. My intuition was totally shot, so like, I'm just blind guessing. Turns out definitely she was not interested, but I didn't know that. Until I finally was like, hey, do you want to like go get some food or something? She's like, no, thank you. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I'm sorry. And that was when I was like, okay, fuck, like trying to find love. Like, I'm already broken. It's probably not even a good idea to have a relationship with someone, because of how broken I am. So that's when I officially like closed myself off. And it's not that I stopped like loving or caring for people, but it was like I didn't even entertain the idea. Even if there was someone that I found attractive or whatever, it was like it didn't matter. And that also kind of sealed the deal for me that like I am trash because no one wants me. When obviously I had like things in the background that countered that idea, but I just didn't see it. So then the counselor's like starting to help me like pick apart this like fucking nightmare of a like train wreck. And I'm just like, I'm struggling with my classes. And I get through like one, it's like, all right, I'm stepping, I'm walking one quarter, another quarter. And it's just like, make it to the next quarter. I made it through the next quarter. I barely pass. I'm like pleading to my professors. I'm like, please just let me pass. I can't. I don't know how I'm like even walking at this point. And, you know, and then I'm like, I have financial aid because I'm not working. I'm just like, I'm sorry, financial aid. Like, I know I failed a class. Please don't cut off my aid because I don't know what I'm going to do. And then they were like, okay, like, you know, I'm sitting in the like counseling office. I feel some emotion here. So there was a lady. I think she was the head of the counseling or the financial aid department. I'd seen her multiple times. And I just remember one time I came into her office and I'm really struggling and I'm just like, I need help. I say to her, I'm really struggling and I need help. I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I'm just like, I don't have a job. I don't know. I need to finish this degree. It was like at that moment, it was kind of like I basically felt like I had sacrificed my grandfather to pursue my own kind of life. And it just all came to a head with her. And I'm like, I just I can't fail at this point. And she's like, okay, I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more try. She's giving me more. She's giving me way more chances than I deserved. It was very recent after my grandfather had passed when this all happened, because it was like basically I had been feeling this like massive guilt over picking myself over helping him, because he had when he was in that first nursing home, we found out that he was being neglected slash maybe potentially kind of like abused of some kind. We weren't sure, but definitely that, coupled with me not like visiting as much as I should because I was so focused on the school stuff, it just felt there was like a massive guilt there, that it was like, yeah, I just let my grandfather just pass away without really being there to help him and support him during the last moments of his life. And I couldn't do what he asked, and he was just suffering. And I was at least glad that he stopped suffering, because towards the end there it was really bad. He had like wasn't that he lost his mind, but it was more like I think he was having a lot more spiritual kind of things happen to him. And when he would explain it, like he was literally talking about how he like went out of his body at certain points. He was like, yeah, I went over and stood on that tree over there, or whatever. And I didn't understand what he was talking about at the time. I just thought he was just fucking gone, like, mentally. But looking at it now, it's like yeah, he was having something else happen to him, because he was incredibly lucid. And then suddenly he was just like mumbling about this kind of stuff. He would also talk about the TV and how it's like they're watching through the TV. I'm like, what? What do you mean? No, you don't understand. They're just watching through the TV. I'm like, hearing this, I'm like, I don't fucking know what he's saying, what he's like trying to tell me. And then he kept talking about how like he's like, I keep looping. Like, I just keep having the same day. Or the same shows keep showing up. And it's like, at that point, it's like, I don't know what's like part of just the Parkinson's talking, what's like a spiritual experience talking, and then what's like him trying to just like hint that they're kind of like abusing him in some way. Because we kind of think that like they kept putting on the same shows for him, even though he would ask for something different, or like they wouldn't like take care of him as much as he needed help with. They just weren't equipped for the level of care he needed. Because at that point he was just completely bedridden. Like, he could get up maybe once a day to like barely go to his little chair, and that was kind of it. And then, so when we finally found out that not only was he like effectively being neglected, but that also he was getting charged like fucking, in 1 year they charged him $120,000. That's like fucking insane. So it was like, okay, well, we can't have you there. Like, they're clearly just fucking you in all sorts of ways. So we ended up finding this really wonderful like assisted living home, as opposed to like a giant complex of like effectively apartments. Instead, it was like each person had a room, and then there was like there was only a couple people there, and then there was a whole staff of people, and they were both like more reasonably priced. They were really nice, and it seemed like his last moments were okay there. And when he moved there, I never got a chance to see him before he ended up passing. And yeah, it was hard because I blame myself. And I've forgiven myself since, but like very much at the time there was a lot of blame of like a what if I did in fact take the money and helped him for however long. But I feel like that wasn't my path. I needed to go through school. And so I got that like last chance. And I had 2 classes left. 1 quarter. I needed to do a language class, and I had an elective. And the elective was for any computer science class. And I just sat there and I just gave up. I just couldn't, like, I was slowly kind of working through things with my counselor, but my grandfather dying was just really heavy. And so I'm like, fuck it. I'm not gonna finish this degree. Still haven't. I probably never will. because I don't think it would be worth doing the degree at this point. The point was the knowledge that I gained, and I'm not even applying that knowledge in the conventional way. So it's kind of a pointless degree for me at this point. But anyway, so I gave up, and again, I felt like I had let down this really wonderful woman who gave me another chance when I didn't really deserve another chance. And I just kind of left it at that. And when my grandfather passed, he wrote in his will that he would give me a year of being able to live in his condo that he owned, rent-free, like, bills paid for a whole year as part of the whole thing. And so I was on a ticking clock. I had a little bit of money, but I only really had a year before something happens. And I just knew something was going to happen, but I didn't know what. And so I ask for one of my friends. I say, hey, do you have a job? And I'm like, I just need something to do. And he's like, let me look around. Let me try and find something. And he asks his job, hey, would you be interested in one of my friends? They had a spot open. They're like, you know what? Yeah, bring him in. We'll like do it. It was an auto glass place. And so I get into this auto glass place, and I have a really weird job because the job doesn't actually exist. It's a job that an older member of the company created, and he taught me how to do the job, which is kind of, I'm not repairing windshields. I'm not working in the warehouse. I'm like this middleman that like manages all the glass in the store. And I'll just say there's like 200, 300, 400 pieces of glass at any one time in that store. So it's a big job, but like making sure that everyone has all of the glass they need. Make sure they have all the peripheral stuff they need, like windshield wipers, or there's like a tempered glass section that was like special orders. It was a whole thing. And I got really good at doing this with this guy's help. And I can tell it was slowly like he was training me to like replace him, because wouldn't you know it, he has Parkinson's. And he's also like, he's at that beginning stages of Parkinson's. I'm feeling a little emotional with this one too. It kind of felt like I was dealing with a younger version of my grandfather. They weren't the same, but there was that same like grit and determination that they both shared. And so I kind of shared some of the struggles that my grandfather went through, and just kind of talked to him about like, listen, there's like a lot that goes on with Parkinson's. And my grandfather was anti-medication and all of that stuff. If there's any medication that can make this better, it's probably worth taking. And he was taking medication, and it did help, but it was so hard to, like, that wound was still so raw that seeing him kind of hobble around the same way my grandfather did, and there was a lot of, like, similarities. And in a weird way, it was like he showed me the same level of love that my grandfather did. I'm like, what the heck? It was like, I didn't expect that at all. Yeah, I didn't expect that at all. And all the guys there, like, accepted me. And every time I went out to... I did... There was, like, extra stuff that technically wasn't a part of the job, but basically was kind of my favorite part of the job, where I remember my manager would always come and be like, "Hey Tom, are you busy?" And I'm like, "Nah, what's up?" Got a part that my one of the techs needs to get run out to, like, whatever place, like 45 minutes away. Could you run it out to him? And I'm like, "Yeah, you got it." And so I, like, pull up my phone. I'm like, "Okay, call him up. Hey, I'm getting your part right now, and we're gonna head over there and we're gonna get it to you." And it's like every time they're, like, so grateful that they don't have to come back to the shop and, like, totally ruin their run. Because the techs that are replacing windshields, they only get, like, 4 to 6 windshield replacements a day because it takes a lot of time, even if you're really fast and really good at your job. So basically cutting potentially almost 2 hours of driving in some cases, while they're kind of like, they immediately know, okay, this windshield is not going to work. And they can, like, take out the other windshield, know that I'm coming with the right one, yada, yada, yada. So, that felt really good. And they all really liked me. And so it felt like there was, like, this family. Yeah, it was like an extra family. And I just remember slowly the family kind of fell apart because the manager ended up either leaving or transferring, or something happened that we don't really know about. And so the manager left, and then the assistant manager became temporary, and then there was another assistant manager that also became temporary, and then a new guy came in, and he was like, "I'm doing rules totally differently." And then everyone just disliked this guy, except for my friend that got me the job in the first place. And while all this is going on, my sister's like, "Hey, I'm looking for a job." And I'm like, do you want to do warehouse work? Because I help them in the warehouse, and they're always like missing people. And she's like, that sounds really scary. And I'm like, yeah, but if you want to do, she was talking about like she likes physical labor, and she just wanted to do something in the warehouse, but she was afraid to do it. And I was like, you got this. You can totally do this. And so I asked the warehouse manager, like, hey, can my sister come and work here? And he was like, I don't know. Like, your sister, is she strong? Can she lift windshields? I'm like, I don't know. You'll have to just see and test her. So he was very skeptical. She comes in, and she has, like, the can-do attitude, but is very timid. Of, like, I don't know what I need to do this, but I'm gonna do it. And he's like, okay, I'll temporarily let you work here, and we'll see if you can, like, shape it. Like, we'll just see what happens. And they love her. Everyone is, like, so happy that she's there. She becomes, like, a really core part of the team. And so it's like, I'm, like, so happy for her. And she started to open up out of her shell. She became more confident. It was a big, like, transformational moment for her, where she kind of came into her own, like, she's like, yeah, I can do this. And I forgot to mention this. It's like, there's so much shit. It's just like, sometimes I just forget things. While all of this is also happening, the year runs out at the place that I was currently living at. My grandfather's. Or I guess was my grandfather's. It was the condo. And my mom is the one who currently, or did, own it. And she's like, so my grandfather, before he passed, but before he got, like, mega bad in terms of, like, physical health, helped her buy a house, so that she could have a house of her own, because she always wanted a house of her own again. And so my sister and her lived in this house for a while. And basically, there's just stuff in the background going on with my mom where it's like, she was incredibly depressed. She was struggling with her own stuff, but she refused to go to the doctor because she was afraid of the doctor, because of the, like, weird kind of culty Christian Science, like, section that she was a part of, where they were like, no, doctors, they're bad, they're evil. So she had this ingrained fear, and she refused to go to doctors. And so she ended up basically saying, okay, I'm going to sell the house. And you're going to also need to move out, because I'm going to move in there. And I'm like, fuck, what? Like, how am I gonna even do this? I hadn't lived anywhere other than my grandfather's house and my mom's old house and all the stuff as a kid, right? So I was like, basically just getting kicked out, and it was like almost immediately after the year expired, and I was incredibly upset at her. I was like, can't you give me a couple months? Like, she didn't even have the courtesy to tell me in person. because we had been arguing. It had been getting really bad, where it's like, basically, I found out. So my sister, sorry, there's some background. So my sister and I had a really tumultuous relationship for a while, because what my mom would do is she would get upset with something my sister was doing. Because my sister was depressed, she was like in her room a lot of the time, and she was very like introverted, like to herself. And at one point I like taught her how to drive because she didn't want to learn from my mom, because quite frankly I understand there was some really bad blood between her and my mom. And so basically what would happen is my mom would tell me, hey, you should get your sister to do these things. And me not knowing the full brunt of the relationship, I would be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll talk to her. And then I would go as a little soldier of mom, and I would be like, hey, you need to do this because mom said this, 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 and that. And then I would hear her side, and I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, it's not actually that way at all. And then me and my sister would, like, get into a little bit of an argument, because at the time I was, like, very much like, well, I gotta help my mom somehow. Not realizing I also needed to help my sister, even though that makes sense. So there's also a lot of guilt around that.